to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here this evening. We do have a few things on the agenda. Do want to remind everybody that this is being recorded. So if you don't want it to be recorded, something you say, then don't say it. Okay, the first thing, we have roll call. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Adams,
Present.
Mr. McManaway,
Present.
Mr. Melton,
Present.
Mr. Christ, present. We also have Mr. Gorski and Mr. Dante.
And one member, Dan Osborne, is not present this evening. Okay, I'd entertain a motion that we approve the August 17th minutes. Do I hear a motion? Okay. Moved and properly second that we approve the August 17th minutes. Any further discussion on it? Not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, the first petition on the agenda tonight is petition 2023 B12. It's at 644 South Shore Drive. And if you're presenting, make sure you get the secretary's name, and also we can get this in the minutes properly.
Very good. Good evening, board. Thank you for your time. I'm Eric Burns, 644 South Shore Drive. I'm here with my wife this evening, Marty, and Dan Price, who is our contractor from Coors Construction. We're here this evening to ask for your assistance in rebuilding a garage. There's going to be some movement in that garage, and that is why we're here. We'd like to thank Mr. Gorski also, who has been very helpful, and I think he's in general supportive of the project. If I could orient you quickly, I bet this is no surprise, but down here is where the location is at Southside Drive, shown on this map. And if you've got the map that my wife so carefully colored for you, you can orient to the north, obviously. And if you're standing orienting to the north, you'll see that the house that we're talking about here has South Shore Drive to the south, behind you if you're looking towards the lake to the north. And in front of it is Southside Drive, and I've denoted it private. And I use that term a little advisedly because, quite frankly, it's on this map as a public road. So it was platted, no question about it. And so, as you probably know, if it's platted, it's a public road if the county wants it to be a public road. The county's never wanted it to be a public road. It's always been maintained. It's always been paved by all the people that live along there. And that's fine with everybody. I know that you have findings that you need to make this evening, 3 different findings. I believe that we qualify under all those findings. The first 2, general welfare and adjacent properties, I think are the ones that are pretty darn clear. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that everybody's getting along just fine. The garage that we had there that we had to tear down, we would like to put it back. I don't believe there's anybody that does anything except think that's a great idea for our neighborhood. I know that there were, the number, probably 20 or so people that were notified. My understanding is nobody spoke against it. All the neighbors I've spoken to are in favor of it and say, yeah, why don't you get your garage back up? It was a demolish, it was a tear down. Again, we appreciate the fact that we were able to go forward and get it torn down because it's been decrepit for quite some time. So I've written a few notes that kind of lay out where we think it is and where it can be under those 3 different parameters that you have to consider. It's not injurious to public health. I think it's a great improvement. I think any of our neighbors, if they were standing here, would say that. We think it'd be an improvement to adjacent properties. And the practical difficulty, if you look at the site, and I put a little history. I had a little bit of fun looking back into the history of this. That this house was built when it was a marina, and some of you may remember that Jack Campbell sold this little 1-room cottage that was his mother-in-law's to my father, Jack Burns, Jack Campbell lived next door, and those were the two houses that were there way back in the day. And so you had those houses that were built there. And then you had gravel roads that would go in between going to these various buildings on that property that was the marina. And so it came in a little bit of reverse order. Usually you have roads when you have the houses built. Here you had two little houses, ours included, and then you had a road put in. As you can see from the drawing, if you're oriented to it, the South Side Drive, the private drive, it's a dead end. It serves six families. And when this was platted back in the 70s, the purple or pink line is where the road ended up. So you see where the actual plat is. It goes at an angle, right like this. And when they went out there to start putting asphalt down, they just put it so it was parallel to the front of our house and the neighbor's house. And that made sense, I suppose, just because it certainly looked like that's where you should have put it. And that South Side Drive has been maintained ever since, and it has been, I believe, redone twice, one of which was about 5 or 6 years ago by the neighbors. And so we are asking that we be able to rebuild the garage. If you look at the map, you've got a blue rectangle that shows where the garage was. It was torn down. The red, which is dotted, will show where we're asking for that garage to be rebuilt. As you may know, if you're familiar with the site, if you are walking from the lake towards our house, you're going to go up the ground. Everything out there is flat, except really our property, and then you start going up. So if you're walking up towards our house from this private drive about where the garage began, just where you start walking uphill. So both sides, you see the green stripes over there where our deck is. That's an uphill. The other side, where another part of our renovation is going on the right side, if you're walking uphill, is also uphill. And so what we're asking for, and why we think it's probably a good thing for all reasons, is that we've got a drive that's already there in essence. There will be no need to dig out any earth, no reason to have any additional driveway. And so we think that it's already there. We also have made a few other observations in the documents that you got before you. I do want to give you a photograph that shows where you're looking at the private drive out here. I'm going to hand these to you in a second. And if you look at the photos, you'll see where this lines up, I believe, where Mr. Gorski is taking some photos. I assume Steve took the photos. And then I've got a spot where the corner of the garage, so the farthest corner of the garage to the east and to the north, is right here where the tape measure is. That was just torn down. And what we're doing is we are just sliding it about 11 feet to the east. So the corner is sliding 11 feet. The reason it's sliding 11 feet is it's going to be the same depth, 24 feet, same size garage depth-wise, but width-wise, it's going to increase by about 7 feet. And it's also sliding over. And I'm going to hand you these if you don't mind. And so it'll be in generally the same area, but it will be sliding over. And by sliding over, the good news about the site is the fact that it used to be offset from the main house. And now what's going to happen is that garage is going to line up exactly with the existing house walls on both sides. And so we believe that it's going to be a good addition. We think that the peculiar nature of the site makes it something that we certainly haven't self-imposed, and that putting it anyplace else is going to be a practical difficulty for a host of reasons. I just went to whatever neighbors were around and gave them this, asked them, are you in favor? And they all laughed at me and said, here, I'll sign it your way. So there we go. Well, I think one of them stuck together, maybe. So I ran out. So,
I can grab one of theirs
Yeah.
for the record.
Yeah, you can.
Thank you. I think it's stuck together. So that's what we're asking for permission to do. Of note also, finally, is because of where that actual road, the actual pavement is, this doesn't get any closer to that pavement because it was put parallel to our garage way back in the day. And since we're just moving to the east, it's not getting any closer to the actual pavement of the driveway. But because the angle of that old plat is at an angle that goes towards, as you go towards the south, it goes up, or excuse me, as you go towards the east, it goes to the south. Because we're sliding over, we're getting closer to that angle. And so we're going from 8 to 4. 25 feet is the standard, as you know. We believe that since this is essentially, again, private drive, it's used as a private drive, it's a dead end, it's never going to be accepted, I wouldn't think. And it's 40 feet wide, so it's got plenty of elbow room. And we believe that this would be an advantage for everybody in the neighborhood. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple of questions. You said in here someplace that there was going to be a bedroom will be above the new garage.
That's correct.
That will be over the whole garage.
That is correct.
Then I don't understand where the new deck is. Is this the old deck? What's,
Yeah, that deck has now been destroyed. That deck has all been taken down.
so there's not going to be a deck on that side?
There will be a deck and it'll be in a similar situation.
But part of it's over the garage. That's why I was wondering about the
So,
bedroom and the,
When this was submitted, the demolition had not occurred yet. So if you take that deck and just forget about it, okay?
Okay.
It's been demolished. It's going to be rebuilt in essentially the same position. Obviously, it's not going to be under this portion of the garage. It'll be right next to the garage though.
and the other question I have is, in this particular picture, what is this little structure here?
You know, that was the original cottage, a 1-bedroom cottage, and that was just a little entryway. That is going to go away.
Okay.
It's got a very low ceiling. It was the original entryway to the 1-bedroom cottage back in the.
But that is
50s.
coming off.
That is
Okay.
coming off, yes.
Mr. Melchon, do you have any questions?
What date is the garage?
We just tore it down.
It's about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, most.
Yeah.
Recent. 4 or 5.
In the grassy area to the northeast. That's not anyone's property. That's just part of the South Side Drive.
No, sir, that is part of our property. So if you look at the,
It's a big triangle.
yeah, here's the actual, this used to be essentially 2.5 lots. And so what we have now is, this is way out into the pavement, goes all the way past the front of the garage. It goes down and then, this is all our property. It goes uphill here and then it cuts back down around. So this is the shape of the
But I
actual.
mean, this
building.
little area triangle north of.
Oh, that, yeah, that's grass. And the reason it's grassed, I guess one way to look at it is since everybody's ignored this line all these years, and this is the pavement line, the purple, that's just grass. Now, it's actually within the, the area that was set up for the road, but it's just never been used. And it's got a little, I guess it's clean out
It's got a shut off valve for the
Shut-off.
septic line there.
in there.
That's what they're
Right in that.
right here, circle.
Right, the circle with the X is a
Yeah.
little clean out.
Does this have the same issues as far as the private drive, as far as to the north, the properties on the north side of that?
In terms of where the road is,
Where the road is?
it's got similar issues, but it's off the other direction. If you
Right,
I mean-
but I mean, I just see this marks here and I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's 40 feet. If you go 40 feet directly that way is where the other side is. So it's pretty consistently 40 feet.
From this pink line,
Oh, yeah, some
Right.
is to the north. Dead into. the
Right.
drive.
Yeah.
but I didn't know what, this was actually
All homes on the other side.
homes on the other
Yes,
side,
just all homes.
that's actually over that straight line
Like into the road.
into the road.
Yeah, these are homes. This is a lot of area up in here of the other houses. And this whole thing here is a road.
Yeah. Here's the GIS. If you want to go look at it there. I would note that the GIS, it's not unusual. It's off east to west. The
Right,
yard barn
That's
is,
common.
yeah, our yard barn is actually on the property, which is.
Yeah.
Nice. So here we are, sir. This is ours right here. And there's the drive.
I've got-
Platted, and here's where it's actually. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, because this property right here is what I'm looking
It's over the road.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's on the other side, but.
at. Other side of the road.
Yeah, sir, that's other side of South Side Drive. So here we are, and then direct across.
No reason I'm asking, I'm just concerned, I'm gonna say that it is platted, and I know the county's not doing anything with it. And it, concrete is not put where the platted, whatever.
It's true.
And my only concern is if it's platted this way, will it ever be, is it a possibility, and I guess it'd be a question for you, Steve, as well. The possibility that county could take that back if they've never,
County would only take it back if they were asked to take it, and then they may or may not, but they'd have to be asked, they wouldn't do it on their own.
but did the county actually abandon it in the street? They just-
I don't think it was ever a street. I don't think it was ever a county street. It was a private drive that was built in after they filled in that area for the putting.
Yeah, it was platted again, so it was platted, but it was never,
So it never went forward.
never had anything beyond that. It was never accepted for public use, and it was never maintained or in any way improved.
There's no way, I mean,
Yeah, I
I
can't
it
imagine,
wasn't an issue in the future to come back where the county would step in and then we
right?
agree to this or whatever, you know, then,
Yeah.
then we wind up with the platted part being the road and then we're gonna be a 4-foot setback.
Yeah, and I think, fortunately for us, it's tougher on the other side because the other side,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
actually on it.
Yeah, I can see
We're a
that,
little bit
yeah,
behind.
but I didn't wanna come up and create a
No.
problem on both sides either.
Understood.
Yeah.
It seems unlikely, but
The South Shore Drive is technically the front of the house.
that's it's South Shore Drive is a public road, and then there's
And
South
that's-
Side
Yeah,
Drive,
technically.
Yeah. which is.
Because
technically the front. Doesn't
it's
feel like
referring
the
to
front,
the-
David.
A 4-foot backyard setback.
Yes.
What I- And technically,
Back
the
there.
address is of South Shore Drive. Okay.
What's his own?
This is, S. It's not Lake.
S1,
Is it S?
I would say it'd probably be S1.
Yeah.
It's not L.
Because it's not on L, or it's not on Lake, but it's not an L.
But I know we still have property that way. I just want to clarify.
It's a dot.
It's not, no. It's not, it's
I think
not.
it's S.
It's a.
S1.
Mr. Chris, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Did you have anything else, Mr. Manaway?
No, I have nothing.
Mr. Melton? Did you have anything? Do you have any comments or questions, Mr. Dante? Are we ready for finding the facts? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Does anybody here in the audience have any comments or questions? Anybody online have any comments or questions? Not, we'll move to finding a fact. Just a reminder to everybody, if you disagree with any of these 3 statements, then you have to vote no on the variance. We do have to have a majority of, have to have 3 people approve it. Is everybody ready for it? Okay, number 1, the general welfare. The approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Melton. Mr. McManaway. Mr. Christ.
Agree.
And the chair agrees. Number 2, the adjacent property. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Melton. Mr. McManaway.
Agree.
Mr. Christ.
Agree.
And the chair agrees. Number 3, the practical difficulty. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. Mr. Melson. Mr. Melson or Mr. McManaway,
I agree.
Mr. Christ,
Agree.
and the chair agrees. I would entertain a motion that we approve this variance. Been moved and properly second that we approve this variance. Have any further discussion?
Thank you.
And we need to vote on this though.
Yeah.
And how do you vote on the variance, Mr. Melson? Mr. McManaway? Mr. Chris?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, passed 4-0. Thank
Thank
you.
you much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Let's see. While we're at it, we never signed the,
Oh, we didn't sign the other thing. Forgot all about that. Thank you. Got to have you sign the minutes at the last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is case number 2023 B13. There's no address on it, but it's on Obispo. And filed by Christine Morrison. Do we have somebody here speaking on this tonight?
Yes, hi, my name is Christine Morrison, and we would like to obtain a variance to develop the land to put a single-family home on the lot. That would be approximately 1,144 square feet with an attached two-car garage. Currently, the setback, since the lot is on Obispo and, I may butcher this, Bada Banyo. It's a corner lot, so it has two frontages, and the current setbacks are 25 feet for Obispo, and for Bada Banyo, we're asking for Bada Banyo, since it's also considered a frontage, to be reduced to 10 feet, and for the remaining two rear variances to be reduced from 10 feet to 5 feet. And that would accommodate a 1,144 square foot house, an attached garage for about 570 square feet. The current variances on the lot would only allow you to put a house that is only 624 square feet on it with the current variance setbacks. So it's challenging to build on that lot a fair-sized home, since it's considered a corner lot and non-conforming to the other houses around it.
From Obispo, it's 10 feet to the steps
Yes.
going up the porch. Okay. And then off of Batabano, it's 10 feet to the, is that,
That would be
is
the
that the
side of the house, and then the garage would be set back a little further.
is that the eve? Of the house? Is that the eve of the house or this side of the house?
That's
Do you
the
know?
side of the house.
Because we actually have to measure it from the eve if there's an eve along there.
I know what we were looking to build has a pitched roof, and it would be facing Obispo, and then the back end would be facing behind it.
So the pitch goes north and south. Okay. I mean, the highest point. Right.
Yes,
Okay. So that probably will not have an eve on the end then.
correct.
good.
Yeah, really.
It could, it should.
That could, you know,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, better. Still have it.
Still gonna be some more behind it.
Yeah. Have you seen the looks of it and is it is? Well, what I'm asking is if we give it 10 feet, it's got to be measured from to the eve. But if they measure it to the edge of the house, then they're not either going to have an eve or they're going to have to move it another foot.
From the furthest point of the house sticking out. So if the eve counts.
It even counts.
Yeah.
The eve counts. I'm trying to pull up a picture on my phone to see if the actual schematic, yeah, it does have a little eve, almost about a foot on each side.
And that's what we measure to. And that's why I was wondering if 10 feet is going to be enough.
No, it would not be enough. Then I would need an additional 2-foot reduction on Bada Baño, so it would be 8 feet to accommodate the eaves on each side of the house.
Well, you just need one on that side. Well, you
Correct.
do need on the side too. You're right, though. You're right. Because it'd make
Correct.
it 4 feet on one side and 9 feet on the other.
Correct.
Hmm.
5 feet at the garage.
That's the pitch.
Did you understand that? Mrs. Morrison?
I couldn't hear the question that was posed, if there was one about a garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the garage, the same thing is probably going to happen on the west side where you're asking for a 5-foot setback from the property line. It would probably have to be changed to 4 feet also because of the measuring it from the eave.
I do have some play on the garage. That's the biggest that we were thinking of going, but we are also contemplating going only 20 feet. So I do have more play on that side of the house. Instead of it being 24 in depth, it would be, it could go 20. So
22.
This is a 2-story house, a 1-story house,
just a single family ranch
just a ranch, yeah. Okay,
with the crawl space.
okay. Questions?
Now, the already existing.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said, Barry.
Trying to think here as far as, I mean, to put in the house here on facing back, you know, no other house really other than one. But
And the lot that's west of it, actually, is that house that's to the north. That's all big one lot, long lot. That they've been asked to tear down, which has been a bad shape for a long time.
The address will actually be a visible, right?
I'm sorry?
The address will actually be on a visible street. That's the problem.
Yes.
Well, actually, I think that lot is on, I think it has a different name, doesn't it? It was Akron Street.
No, this lot's on the corner of,
No, I realize that. No, I'm talking about that other house.
oh, once again, that's in bad
That
shape.
small one is on Akron Street, yeah.
That's correct. It's on it.
And that lot goes all the way to Badavano.
Yes.
Is the guy, who owns that house? Is that somebody that just, it's not the guy next door to it, is it?
815, the one that's in
The one
bad
on that.
shape.
Mhm.
That's owned by Sean Yacht. He owns both those houses to the north.
Oh, both of them, okay.
So the setback to the north, that's considered a side yard setback, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't see the variance for this.
I don't
Well,
either.
Yeah, that's,
it's marked in the thing. I mean, I don't know, we have it.
The side yard from.
yeah, I don't either.
That would have to be. But don't we, aren't we talking about 25 feet from the street
Which side are you talking about?
on both Banabano and Obispo?
Obispo. Ordinance calls for 25.
Down to one side, he's got 2 front yards.
Uh-huh.
With the exception though that I can grant it without approval, I can say 10 feet as long as it's consistent with the other houses on the street.
Right.
And which would apply really on both Obispo and Vatabano.
And we don't have to have a variance for that? Even though it's consistent?
No, no, the ordinance allows me to make that call
Okay.
for no less than a term 10 feet. If it's consistent with the other houses on the street for the frontage.
So in reality, the only two that she really needs, if you give that allowance, is the 2 5-foot setbacks.
Yeah, unless you count on the Vatabano, if you talk the overhang
Yeah, that might have to go to 8.
for 9. I don't know how big the
You
overhang.
could go to 9 if it's 1 foot overhang.
Yeah, but then the other one, that's.
Then the other one have to go to 4.
Correct.
Or you could just go to 8 on Batabano and then the other side's automatically taken care of because the house will be moved closer
Right.
to adjust for the overhangs.
Yeah, but you still need a variance. for
But you
that.
still need a variance for both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
since both were considered frontages. That's why we requested the rear yard variances on both sides.
I'm talking about the 5 yards to the north, I mean, the 5 feet to the north.
Correct,
That's 5 yard setback.
correct.
You've not asked for that. You've asked for a setback rear yard to 5 feet, but not
Correct.
side yard.
Well, I was thinking that since Batabano is considered a front yard, then behind it is also a rear yard. And since Obispo is considered a front yard, then behind it is a rear yard. So since it's a corner lot, it has 2 rear yards.
Correct.
Yes.
I understand
The
that
front yards, not 2.
you can have 2 front yards, but there's only 1 rear yard. And then the side yard is when you look at the street address or if you look at the front of the house. The
Okay,
rear is directly behind that. And then you'd have 2 front yards, but you can't have 2 rear yards. One's gonna be a side.
oh, who knew?
I
I thought
understand,
since
but-
they were both considered front yards, that I would have, that they were both considered rear yards.
And
I
look,
understand what you were thinking.
looking at this one picture, is that pretty accurate as far as the lot goes? And is it that far back from the street?
Which picture?
The one that's picture's got picture of the lot. It looks like there's a wide gap from the street to the,
So it should,
Coming on the south side.
well, both actually. There's a, it's fairly,
Yeah.
right, the house is being measured to setbacks. Christine, setbacks are being measured from the property lines,
Right.
correct?
Mhm,
Yes.
exactly. Mhm.
Because Obispo has sidewalks on it and Batabano does not.
Oh, okay, I see the sidewalk now.
Probably right at 18 feet maybe. From the road.
And the only other house on Padavano is, actually, I'm sure it's on South Main Street, the address, but it looks like it's almost right on the property line there.
Change the wording of the variance request.
I think so because of the misunderstanding as far as the overhang and where it's measured from.
Change it from 10 feet setback to an 8-foot setback.
As far as the request.
Please.
8 or 9.
Would have to be,
She wants 8 because she's already got.
And move it this way instead of making it closer over here. Which is probably makes sense because there's a house over there already.
Well, it'll be.
Right now, it's at 15.
Well, you're gonna increase, you're moving it toward that amount. Right?
Correct, with the 8-foot setback, yes.
8 foot setback. So
Move
that
it
would make it now 6 feet.
No,
That, where she would, the line would be.
no, it'd make it,
The property line would be.
8 foot to the south, and 5 feet to the north.
it'd still be 5 on the
There
north.
was a foot over.
And it'd be 8 feet.
Of the house.
What's that?
Not increasing the size of the house.
No,
But there's a,
If you're moving the house
but,
forward,
no, well, we are because we are increasing the size because we're telling her it can't be measured from the walls, it's gotta be measured from the eaves.
right,
So we're not in,
there's a
but, so
foot-
we've got to
foot
change
eve on
the
the south side, and a
variance
foot eve on
right,
the
but
north.
if you're.
to take care of that.
Yeah, so you're adding a foot to the back.
No. Well, no, we're leaving that 5 feet, gonna move the whole house. So it, instead of needing it 4 feet, they're
So
gonna
it'd
keep
still
it
be
at 5
It would
feet,
be 5
but it
feet
would take
to
the 2
Right,
feet
right.
over here.
Could run out 5 feet to the
Yeah.
house, you're right. That's the eve.
Yeah.
Thank you for correction.
And Mrs. Morrison,
Yes,
I think, when you were talking about the garage, making it 20 feet instead of
Yes.
24 feet, I think that would be very, advantageous.
yes, I
Uh,
do too. Especially for my pocketbook.
Understand that completely. So can we change this to 8 feet on the south side from Batabano? And,
Yes,
and make it 8 feet on the west side, and that would take off the 4 feet from the garage and still have, take the extra foot for the eve. So it'd add 3 feet instead of,
yes,
it would be 8 feet instead of 5.
yes.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So it'd be, and 10 feet on the east side, 8 feet, and 8 feet on the other two.
5 foot on the side.
And the side, yeah, backside. You're going to have to take down quite a few trees there, aren't you?
Yes. And I believe someone has a, what's it called? A satellite dish, I think, that is sitting on the property. It's
Ah.
been vacant for a very long time.
Yeah,
For my clarification, then I had the garage is gonna go from 24 by 24 to 24 by 20.
Correct.
And on the side 8 feet, west side 8 feet, east side 10 feet, north side 5 feet.
correct. Everybody on the board understand that and have any questions? Have any comments or questions from anybody here? Anybody else online? Go ahead. Sorry, Mrs. Morrison.
I said I do not, but thank you
Oh, okay.
for figuring that out for me.
Did anybody else have a question online? Okay, if not, we're ready to move.
Oh, no,
Go
I
ahead. I'm
do.
sorry, Mr. Gris.
I have some concerns about
Okay.
why there's a need for the amount requested on the north side of the house.
The total width of the house is 44, and with the setbacks and with the eaves, the house would not be able to fit. And it's only 1,144 square feet. And that is why we are asking for those variances. It's a very tiny ranch home that we are looking to build.
Well, I'm still concerned about giving up the 10-foot side yard setback since there is a residence next door to it.
The house, when you go by there, looks to have a yard that's built up and it's sloping, and so it's not close to, it does not appear close to the actual property line. It looks to be set back itself on its lot. So, and I think that's a 2-story house.
Well, I was by the site several times and
Yes,
I have the concern about if we're going to give away the 10-foot side yard, what kind of precedent that sets when there is nothing there presently. And so then essentially there is no hardship since there is nothing there presently.
Our ordinances and even in Indiana State Code says the decision of BZA does not necessitate a precedent. It won't set precedent. Can't do that, BZA, with your decisions.
but
Meaning
is,
each case is good.
isn't part of Culver's plan to build additional family housing?
Your question again, I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, I said, isn't part of Culver's comprehensive plan to have additional family housing in the area where, you know, lots are vacant and there's few and far between? And just because someone has used that lot since it is vacant all this time, doesn't necessarily necessitate that one should be precluded from being able to purchase it and build a small residence on it, because with the current setbacks, you can only build a house at 624 square feet.
Actually, if I might add this, and I think Mr. Chris brought up a point, because when you buy a lot, you know what size the lot is, and then when you want to build a house on it, you already know that you're restricted to the size.
Mhm.
But, and the other side of that too, not trying to be, but on the evil side, but you could turn this as far as putting the house on Badavano, turn the other way. And if you're actually required a garage, then you're not talking about the extra space, but it will give you extra space for the same size house.
Yes, but you would not be able to put a garage there
No,
because
but
we
it's
have, right. And
Yeah.
for us, a garage is paramount.
I just know we've got ordinances that making provisions for these non-conforming lots. I mean, that's why it's only a 10-foot setback on your rear yard setback. Because normally it's 25 on R1. But under a non-conforming lot, as our building commissioner talks about his 10-foot setback, we will, whatever on this variance, but it'd be a variance from 10 foot instead of 25. But I have a hard time actually approving variances before a house has been built, because it's like you create your own hardship. That's really dumb, really problematic with this.
My only concern would be the fact that did we tell the neighbors to the north prior that they were asking for that setback to their yard?
Well, they have to be notified, don't they?
Well, I know they're
We have
notified,
letters and
they're notified
publication.
of the two that are on the variance, but the side yard setback wasn't listed on there, so that, are they aware
Oh.
that we're putting?
I know the house is listed as an Airbnb on multiple websites, so I'm not sure that there is even a person living there full time, since they do list it on Culver as an Airbnb. It's available for a nightly rental fee.
Yeah,
Right, somebody has buys it, things shown for the house there.
That's currently listed on sale.
I'm just looking at our number 3rd development standard we've got here, and when it talks about the situation shall not be self-imposed nor be based on a perceived reduction of or restrictions on economic gain. And feel like we're trying to put a big enough house. I understand that, but still the situation shall not be self-imposed. I think that's what we're looking at, being self-imposed.
Well, my feeling is, and I'll address this, is because it is basically lined up with the houses on the, and I think the biggest question is the distance between the two lots, and the north setback. I think the other two I have no problem with at all because of lining up with the other houses in the neighborhood. It's that between, but I do agree that there is a big gap there. I don't know. This is an area of town that we've been concerned about making improvements on for years.
Yes.
And I hate to
Yeah.
make any decision that is not making against making an improvement on. And, you know, there's some very questionable places down there. In fact, right across the street, that needs some tender loving care. And I think any kind of improvement we can make is very beneficial to the whole area. I don't think it's going to detract from the values of the property at all. I think it's only going to help it.
My only concern is,
I'm sorry.
my only concern is that we've changed the variances from what we notified everybody that they were going to.
We also notified everybody about its actual hearing too, though, so they had. The hearing notice went out, the letters went out, so people know there's a hearing.
But they don't know.
And it didn't,
I understand.
but it didn't change that 5-foot setback, which is one neighbor. And that hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed. I'm sorry.
5-foot setback wasn't listed.
Oh,
Wasn't on-
it wasn't on the list? Okay. They didn't get a copy of this. They didn't get a copy of the,
They,
exactly what was asked for?
no,
Okay.
not exactly what's asked for, no. The legal notice did not include the setback.
Oh, I
to
see what
the
you're
north.
saying.
If it's used as a rental though, there's not a permanent tenant there. If the owner was advised that someone is interested in building a single family house on the lot, and the drawings clearly depict the size of the house. The size of the house has not changed on the drawings. And neither has the setback sides.
The fact that it's an Airbnb is irrelevant. It's the
Okay.
owner. So
Yeah,
I mean, they don't get a picture of the drawing, so all they
Okay.
can do. Notice.
And the legal notice only says a 5-foot variance, rear yard, 5-foot rear yard setback.
Okay. So would you like me to resubmit this then with for next month?
And I think if we want to make sure that the neighbors have gotten the proper notification, yes, I think we do need to do that. But I don't know if that will, and I can't speak for the rest of
right.
the board here, whether that will be enough, for Mr. Melton, that he said that's what was bothering him. But Mr. McManaway and Mr. Chris both have feelings that they probably cannot vote. They agree on the third question that we have to answer. Which means, and well, we do have a member that's not here. So I can't tell you how it will turn out. If you do come back, if there's no changes made, I don't know.
I mean, I don't feel like we can actually vote on it now anyway, without that information.
Okay, then let me withdraw my submission and I'll come back in October
Okay,
and we'll see if that will suffice.
okay,
But if it's not, then God bless you guys for trying to get that lot developed.
okay.
Because I've
Hey.
looked at that lot every way through from Sunday.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
thank
very
you
much.
so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
I guess we did we technically have to vote on tabling that, or she
would
withdrew it?
not-
Okay, she withdrew it, that's right. Next, is case number 2023 B09. This is kind of a continuance from the last meeting. And this is property 220 Coolidge Court. And who's speaking tonight? Anybody speaking? Do you have any idea if somebody is going to be here, Mr.?
My understanding that there would be, Burke Richardson would be here to speak on case B09 and B10. From our last meeting,
Mhm.
said he'd have new drawings that you have copies of.
Table film.
Was paper.
And he's not here, so I guess we skip it. We move on. But this,
So you can table it, you can deny it.
okay,
It's,
do we want to, since there's
well,
nobody
you
here,
can't really prove it, so you can table it or you can deny it.
If he has made new drawings, has a new plan of attack.
well, I think
Well,
But
we-
it's
I think that's what this is.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but I would want to hear.
Oh, yeah, I definitely
Yeah,
want to
'cause
have some
if
questions
there's-
and stuff.
I'd rather make a motion.
I agree, so I'll
Well-
second it.
table it, or
Table.
since he's not here and he was supposed to be here.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It is, I mean,
If you deny it, then it's a year, right?
Pardon me?
yeah, we deny it. It'll be a year before you.
And maybe something happened, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
And I'd hate
I don't wanna
to,
assume
yeah,
that he just didn't show
I
up.
agree. I
Okay.
agree with you, Mr. Melson. So you want to make it
I motion that we table it.
Both. 09 and B9 and B10? Sounds like vitamins. Okay,
Include that in the motion, right?
you made a motion, we're
I
going
made a
to
motion, yes.
table both. Did I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, we have motion that we table this to the next meeting and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. 4-0, okay? Okay. Well, that shortened things up a lot. Now we have Mr. Miser. We have Mr. Miser here.
I can present on this first.
I'm sorry.
I can present on this first.
Okay,
For my notes, and you'll have copies of it.
Uh-huh.
With John Miser request a hearing to appeal the Culver Building Commissioner's decision that a fence located at 222 Marmot is out of compliance for shall have a minimum 50% of its surface open to permit visibility. And the next page, this home is located on the corner of Marmot and Slate Streets. The fence is along Slate Street. Zoning is residential R1, residential district R1. The third page in has pictures of the fence that has the covering over it. That no longer has the 50% visibility. Then Article 6, Section 070, fences, hedges, and walls. Fences permitted in residential and commercial districts. Within the limits of a required front yard setback area, no fence shall exceed 5 feet in height and shall have a minimum of 50% of its surface open to permit visibility. Necessary retaining walls are exempt from the provisions of this requirement. The frontage definition in our ordinances. 222 Marmot has 2 frontages or front yards. These are along Marmot and Slate Streets. In Article 13 of Culver zoning ordinances, the definition of frontage is frontage. The property line abutting a street or road right of way. In the case of property abutting upon a body of water, lake, channel, or river, the boundary line abutting said body of water shall be considered frontage. The water part's not applicable on that first sentence is. Then in Article 3, Section 150, zoning district standards, Table 3-B, distance standards. Underneath front yard, it references footnote 1. Footnote 1 states measured from the road or street right of way. On a lake, the front yard is the road or lakeside. On May 31st, 2023, I sent to the property owner on South Plymouth Street a notice of violation for fence that is not compliant with Culver zoning ordinance Article 6, 070 B1. This states that a minimum 50% of the fence surface must be open to permit visibility. The owner of this property removed the solid fence covering, which is the same type of fence covering. On July 30th, 2023, I sent 2 certified mail letters to the Misers. The letters had the same content, which was notice of violation for the fence at 222 Marmot being out of compliance. One letter sent to the recorded address of the property owners in South Bend, and the second letter to the owners at 222 Marmot. These letters were received respectively on July 5th and July 7th. I can send a letter to 222 Marmot that the fence covering is to remove no later than October 1st, 2023. Failure to remove your fence covering by October 1st, 2023 will result in fines up to $200 per day, every day that the fence is out of compliance. Upon receipt of the second notice of violation, Mr. Miser contacted me and requested a hearing to appeal my ruling that the fence at 222 Marmot along Slate Street is out of compliance. After hearing all testimony, if this Board of Zoning Appeals finds that the fence located at 222 Marmot is out of compliance, ask that you continue the order that this fence be brought into compliance by October 1st, 2023. And the failure to comply with the order will result in fines up to $200 per day for every day out of compliance. In addition, I ask that you clearly state that this order will remain in effect, so solid fence covering will not be reinstalled. Any questions for me?
No. I'll go ahead and let you speak, Mr. Miser.
Sure. Well, thank you first of all for having us, and thank you to Steve. He's been very kind through the whole process and tried to answer as many questions since this is all very new. I don't know if we have such ordinances in South Bend, which we don't have home anymore. We live here full time. So I think it's important for you to know that why the fence covering was put up, because there's a reason, not just to put it up. On TGL a few months ago, so ours was put up in middle of April. People in town had asked if we would, if people, not us in particular, but if people could mind their animals, their pets, their dogs and things. And there had been a number of people who had been walking their dogs, and dogs had run out and attacked them. So we have a dog. We have two dogs. One that will never jump the fence, which is a Maltese that's this tall. And we have another dog that has learned he can jump the fence, especially when seeing people running or dogs or whatnot, or rabbits. So we installed the fence for public safety because he could jump the fence. And since installing the fence covering, we have not, he has jumped the fence one time only because you can clearly see our backyard and out the backyard if you're farther away, and he took off and jumped in like a deer. But when he's in that side yard where he goes to the bathroom, we've had no issues since that day. So that was the reason we put it up. I think that the, and you can answer this or not, it doesn't matter. Even when Steve came and talked to us the first time, I think he somewhat agreed that some of the ordinances were written not as well as they should be. And it's clearly because I was very confused and I'm still confused, by the way, how you can have two front yards and not two backyards, but that's okay. I mean, we've already discussed that with people. And I said, he did not ask us to remove the fence coverings that are actually on our fences facing the front yard, in our front yard facing Marmont Street, which is where our mail is delivered, which is technically our front of our home. This is on our side yard. I did measure, it is 16.5 feet from the road to our fence. So technically our fence is even out of compliance on setback. The fence covering is 39 inches tall from ground to top. And it is not solid. I did check with the manufacturer. It provides 60%. So I'm not in the 50%. I was hoping I was. It is a 60% visibility. If you can put your hand behind it, someone can stand out there and you can see through the entire thing, the entire covering. So it is not solid. It's not a tarp. It is a mesh piece like you would find like a wind covering for a tennis court or something like that. So you can't see through it. Certainly not at night. Let's see. The backyard is completely visible when you're at the sidewalk. As long as you're 42 inches tall or taller, you can see the entire backyard. It doesn't impede any road or traffic patterns or anything like that. It doesn't impact any of that. I still don't understand the two front yard rule, but I'm going to take your word, and I trust you guys that there are two front yards. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know the exact process of any of this. We received a letter in July, which in that first meeting, Mr. Gorski has mentioned, because I don't know if he felt bad or not. I'm not putting word in your mouth or his feelings, but he said, it might take me a long time to get your letter. I said, well, I'm not taking it down. I don't think I'm out of compliance. I don't understand. I don't agree with that. My side yard is a front yard, which in time I've understood that I have two front yards. But even the building person on the building commission, who's our neighbor, came down and said, well, this is your front yard. So he was even confused with that. But all that to say, I asked, what is the process? He said, I'll send you a letter. Within that letter, you will have, I think you said, I don't remember exactly, 14 days to reply. We received the letter. I actually contacted him the day I received the letter and said, so what's next? He said, well, after the 14 days, I will send you another letter stating that you need to remove it. I said, okay, then what? And he said, then you can go through the process of appeals or whatnot. So that was in July. We just received another letter this last week. I thought I would receive a letter in August, and then to receive it and say October 1st. I did check, and if we are not allowed to have it, then what's next? I don't know what's next, to be honest with you. I sitting here listening because I've never done anything like this. It sounds like I should have appealed for what is everyone else appealing for? A variance. I had no idea. I was never even informed that was an option. That was an appeal. So that's what I'm here for. I would have asked for a variance, which I don't know if I can do now or not. And I know there's rules, for public safety. But
No, if you applied for a variance, it would have to go through the proper channels and it would have to be sent to the neighbors
sure.
that you were asking for a variance. This is a statute that we've used for a long time as far as 50% visibility, and I agree that this definitely is not 50% visibility
Right.
through it. I understand the problem with the dog. How tall is the fence itself? You said,
The fence is 42 inches. The panel is 39.
Consider the visible permeability that the manufacturer suggests.
We have used that on pervious versus impervious part of the beauty. But as far as a fence, I mean,
well,
we're talking 50/50, it's 50/50.
And just transparency, I called it not 50. He said at best it would be.
if the problem is with the dog, if it's only whatever you said, it shall not exceed 5 feet in height. You can go a higher fence.
Correct. He will jump a 5-foot fence.
If it was 5 feet tall, then would he be allowed to have that
No.
covering for 50%?
No.
No.
He didn't have 50%.
No, it can't be 50% in the front yard. And that's what we just ruled last week or last month on the one.
I think I know where you're
But I'm
going.
saying, if the fence was 5 foot tall, the covering was 39 inches, 50% of it would be open.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, 25%.
Well,
My concern
if we're talking about the 60% permeability.
So just for the record, also the picture that the South Plymouth Street home is a 5-foot fence, I believe.
No, that's same thing.
But that is 100% their whole front yard. It was not what I would call a side yard. I know you guys call it a front yard. This is their front. This is their front yard, their address, their front door. It's that whole length of South Plymouth. So it is a little bit different, in a sense that this is really not my front yard where my address is. It's on a side yard.
Right.
I understand that.
All in it here to clarify the front yard. Basically, I mean, when he read the ordinance as far as requirements for the fence for the setbacks, it's because of the street. So if you've got a street on either side, one of them is definitely your front yard. And the other one is definitely got to be 25 feet from the street. Whether you want to call them both front yards or not. The ordinances itself, as far as the footage for the setbacks, are on anything that's off the street.
And I am out of compliance with both. My house isn't even 25 feet from the road.
A question of clarity, just for my own thought, because I want to make sure to understand what the impetus behind having the screening is. Originally, your intention was to block vision of the dog. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the dog can jump, but my only problem with that argument is that the dog can still hear. There's still a sound response. So maybe the issue is more about the dog, maybe restricting the dog. I understand what you're saying, but you've taken care of the visual part, but the dog still, they respond to sound. And so I'm not sure it's going to do exactly what the intention of the fence is meant to do.
I understand your point, but I will tell you based on the effect of putting the covering on. It's held February, March, and April. He jumped the fence almost daily. My wife is here, can attest to this. Not always daily, because there wasn't always somebody walking by. Since putting it up, he has jumped it once since April, and that was because we were having a fire and he could see somebody over the top of the fence because where we were located, and he took off running and just jumped it. So it wasn't a screen. The screen had worked for its intent. But so there, I mean, I don't know.
I just want to make sure I understood that it was for the dog.
I mean, if it weren't for the dog, we wouldn't be here. We'd be taking the fence, the covering off. We were trying to be, I mean, we're new to Culver.
Right.
We've gutted the home and spent a lot of money to remodel it. We're in the community full time. We're on boards. We're helping in the community. we're just trying to be a good community member. Our neighbors are thankful. He doesn't bark because he can't see anything. So it's been super effective. If you say no, or we don't get a variance, then we will, I don't know what to do after this, because we're gonna have a 5-foot fence that he can see through. And he will likely jump it. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback, they're very athletic. And he's 6, so it's not like he's gonna die tomorrow, which is good, because I love it.
But you don't have room for a fence then beyond that setback from, you say your house is not, but is there any other place that you can actually put the dog that would be in compliant, even if with the 6-foot fence, if you were left that setback? You wouldn't have to use that side yard that you're talking about right now that you put the screen on.
Well, if I
I'm
I don't think so, because I'm
trying to
only,
keep the dog from actually being a problem here, because we have nothing in variance that's going to protect the dog from coming out of the fence.
Right.
So what we're looking at is if the fence is conforming to our ordinances and it's not, then I can't try and resolve a way to keep your dog. All I can do is make sure that this fence is compliant with the ordinances as what I mean, there's no other way.
agreed, within a 3, and I know you're not supposed, my attorney told me, don't use this, but I'm just, within a 3-block after Ms. Gorski came over, and I was like, what? I mean, my neighbor has a fence that's out of compliance, and someone who works in the town has a fence that's out of compliance, and there's within 3 blocks, there's 8 homes out of compliance. It is not our intent to go around.
What do you mean by out of compliance?
Based on these rules.
You
They
mean
are
it's,
not in-
there's 50% is not visible
correct.
in the front yard?
If a side yard adjacent to a street is a front yard, within 3 blocks of my home, that's not even driving very far, there are 8 homes out of quote unquote compliance. So all I'm saying is if you enforce it for me, I feel like it should be enforced for everybody. I am not going to be the one. I was told by Mr. Gorski that the people on South Plymouth are the ones who turned us in because they had removed theirs. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's public record of that. I'm just saying being singled out when there's 8 other homes and it was not out of compliance in April, May, June, and most of July, but
There
But
are many homes in town that have fences that are grandfathered in prior to the ordinances that were already there. And they would be in a lot of cases, privacy fences. So once they're grandfathered in, we can't retroactively have them torn down.
But if there's proof that they were put after the ordinances were in effect, then yes, he can move forward and do the same thing.
I don't want to mess with any of my neighbors or anyone in town because I don't really care.
Yeah.
I just would like to keep mine. And it's not our intent to like turn anyone in.
I want to apologize, but I mean, don't take me wrong. I'm just stating the facts here. I mean, I care for dogs more very much. I got 2 little ones that I don't let out my front door, but I don't want to say how it come to dog. I don't want to say anything like that, but I'm just saying in my position here, I can't relate to feeling sorry for a dog or feeling sorry for anything or a person for that matter. Thing I can look at is whether this fence should or should not be allowed either.
Well, the fence was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't put the fence in. The
Right.
fence was there.
I'm
And
not
it's
saying
certainly
it
not
should or
putting
should
feet
not
off the
be
road.
there.
You mentioned that it was 42 inches, that the dog has jumped it before. One time. And
Sorry.
you mentioned that the fence is 42 inches tall, correct?
Correct.
And you did say that the dog has jumped it once, correct?
Since April, correct.
Yes. 42 inches is not that tall. Therefore, anybody walking along the side of it, most people are going to be well above the top of that, so it could be seen. So the fact that you're saying that it's blocking it, it's preventing it, well, it's not to the extent that there is still line of sight above it. Could be seen.
Sure.
So,
But it's been effective since we put it in. I'm just night and day difference. So it has been effective. I understand what you're saying. I'm just telling you it's worked. That's all.
In the ordinance for the 50 visibility at only 5 feet is because any traffic that comes from one street to the other, you're talking about visibility, so the 5 feet restriction and the 50% is for that reason, which is for safety.
And I would ask Mr. Gorski if he feels that our fence covering at its level where it's located is a public hazard safety issue with the corner of Marmont and Slate.
No, it is now a issue for traffic, pedestrians. Car safety.
Right, I mean, it has no bearing on people coming to that stop sign or turning. My motorhome is more of an issue than the fence.
Yes, that's it.
Do we need to talk about that tonight?
No, it's going to a pole barn. I mean,
I get
it's only been there because the pole barn was getting fixed. So, we don't like it out there anymore, you guys. It's wet. I want to put it away in a building, so. Anyway, that's all I have. Whatever you guys decide is what we'll do. I mean, at this point, it's.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't feel like, I'm going to say to the building commissioner, don't follow the rules. Because I definitely want to follow the rules. I would say your only alternative was to ask for variance, but you'd have to go through the process. And like I said, notify the neighbors, the whole bit. And I don't know if it will work or not, but I think that's the only process I could see coming. And I'm not going to say to the building commissioner, don't follow this rule. No, we have those there for a reason. And
we respect it. But we live here for the rules and rest.
I do feel that the only decision we have here is either to agree with the building commissioner or agree with you. As far as setting up for a variance later, I mean, that would be your option tonight.
So could I ask a question? Because I have a letter dated October 1st. Could I get an extension of the removal until the variance is decided? Because I'm out of the country for most of October for work, which would put me into November to be able to come to this meeting. I guess my wife could come, but I really don't want to volunteer her for anything like that. So,
That's all.
yeah.
so you're talking about not having it for 2 more months.
Well, to ask the question, could we push it could we have an extension to keep, it's a lot of work to put it up. And if I have to take it down, I have to take it down. But if I take it down and you say yes, or you agree, which I know you haven't said that, then it's a lot of work to put it back up. And I got 2 months of my dog jumping out of my yard. So I'm just asking, because I asked the city attorney or one of the attorneys, and they said October 1, it will start to build up. And she said it, not up to it. She said it is $200 a day. And I'm like, well, that could be November. And I started doing math. I'm like, it's a lot of money if I don't win. So
The way I'm understanding on this, I mean, I think that would be up to the building commissioner as far as he would request extension for review. Or us giving an extension for what we're up to what you've already set up for October 1st.
I would, sorry, Steve, I would have gone if I knew the process, which I learned tonight listening. I would have asked for a variance versus waiting till the letter to appeal. I would have asked for that I would have asked for that. I mean, I didn't even know what a variance was until I came tonight, so.
I'm not trying to be a smart aleck either, but I know that should have, could have, would have.
No, I know. I
agree. I'm not trying to point a finger or
Yeah.
anything like that. I mean, I would just even ask the chair, that would be the option as far as what is before us today.
Oh, yeah, it has to come from the building commissioner, not from this board. What we deal with are variances. That's it. The rest of it's the building commissioner.
Just an appeal process. That's it.
And no, we look at variances. We don't look at appeal processes.
No.
Well, yeah,
This
this
is
is
an appeal
appeals here.
This is an appeal.
Well, he's talked to us, but we deal with variances. We don't vote on appeals.
Yeah, in this case, when I make a decision, if it's challenged like this, the BZA is responsible for the.
Yeah,
appeal
he
here.
did responsible.
That's why it was, that's why.
That's what it all is.
Well, we just vote whether we agree with Commissioner.
You can vote,
I'm voting, I would vote to stand behind the building commissioner.
Right. But
period.
if you want to give an extension, does that have to happen prior to our vote, after, or does it matter?
Good question.
The vote would have to transpire in order to have the extension, because if you don't agree with the building commissioner,
And if we don't need
then it would be null and void. You wouldn't need the extension. So therefore, I would move the vote.
And put a condition on it.
And then you turn it over to the, because then it goes back to the commissioner, and then the commissioner has the right to put extension or entertain anything
Right,
else.
and that's his position.
But you have to re-empower him. You have to rule on the.
We have to rule to agree with.
Because I will just remove the appeal and you don't have to vote. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with this. I didn't. You don't have to vote. I'll just remove the appeal and ask for an extension for a, I don't know, a very.
Before you remove the appeal, if I say no, then your fence comes down immediately.
Yeah.
It's, I mean,
Just so you're aware of that.
Well, but if we vote no,
Or by October.
if you vote
1st, it
no,
shuts
they're
down.
gonna vote no already. And I'm not gonna spend 2 months waiting to hear no again, and 60 days times 200. It's not great economics. I mean,
So the two things that I'm hearing right now are, first of all, is what I'm hearing is this building commissioner go ahead and give an extension to that, where I would rather a vote take place here on the appeal. And if you so choose to put a condition on that by, whether it's the October or the November date, that it will either have a variance or have to come down at that point.
We got a question.
My question is the only section of fence that's in discussion right now, the section on Slate Street?
It is.
So since our actual front yard with our address, I understand the whole 2 front yard thing. But if our front yard where our 222 address is, our front door, our mailbox also has those fence coverings, why aren't those in question? I'm just trying to understand. Why is the side yard different than the front?
On a side yard, it's set back behind your home. It's not equal to your home or in front of your home, it's set back off into that. So granted, that is essentially, I'm saying that's okay, because it's set back. I've done that before on other fences. And
Are you asking what's on Jefferson?
no.
So,
But
Yeah.
they have another section of fence around their house to the right and set.
But it's back off the street.
because it doesn't come up beyond the
If
front.
you
of
look
the
at the
house.
picture,
Right, okay.
this is the front of our house. There's a section that comes out about 12 feet to
Right.
the sidewalk.
And that's,
He's not asking us to take that down, which that was the part that I was confused about is, look, if that doesn't have to come down, why does the rest have to come down? I mean, obviously,
And he's granting that because.
well, and it'll all come down.
you include on one word, I guess, so to speak.
So do you want to vote or you want to give me a direction?
I think we
Do
need
you want
to
to vote
vote.
with condition or give me a direction?
The rest of the board seems to want to vote.
I think we have to.
I think we have.
What do you think, John?
I think we do.
Okay.
We can put
You make a
condition
motion?
on it.
Yes, you can.
There can't be a stipulation.
Pardon?
Yeah, it can't be a condition.
Yeah.
It's a tag of.
So I move to vote with the condition that
No, wait.
Wait a minute.
What are you voting? What are we voting on?
You have-
On this?
I.
Or are we voting on?
Well, he's appealing my decision.
Vote on the appeal of Mr. Gorski's decision with the condition that the misers apply for a variance by
Wait
the
a minute.
November meeting.
No, because you're already having the vote completed. By saying that with the motion.
So you either determine the fence is compliant or
We
non-compliant. If it's
vote.
non-compliant, it needs to be fixed by whichever the next hearing or November.
Fixed or variance,
No.
right?
Yeah, if it doesn't have a variance by the state. So the motion would be to deny the appeal. If you so choose, I'm just giving you one example, or approve the appeal.
You have to
And then if you deny it, you can put a condition that it
I
must.
make a motion that we vote to deny the appeal.
make a motion to appeal.
Deny
Just make a motion to
I think you
appeal.
want to vote on the initial appeal,
Right,
then return, have a second motion to put a conditional
There you go.
clause on it. So there needs to be two votes, in my opinion.
Right.
October 1st is the date that penalties start. You can vote that yes, the appeal is denied. The decision was correct, but the penalties will not start until give a date.
Special consideration is given to, and then you vote again.
Another question. I want to make the
Okay.
third attempt at a motion.
My second question is, the 50% visibility, if it was determined that it's not impeding or causing a safety issue for traffic or pedestrians, I guess I don't understand why it has to come down if it's not causing a safety thing, other than it's just the compliance that's in place.
It's not just about safety, it's about also appearance of properties. If everybody has a solid fence up around their house, town's not gonna organize. That's another intent of the ordinance.
That's part of the.
I would argue it depends. So, but we have to be consistent.
No, I understand.
And we appreciate that you're consistent. I mean, that's why we live.
I'm just trying to understand it all, so.
I mean,
Make a
I'm on the
motion to
planning
vote.
commission and I help write all these over.
Okay, we have a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get this. I heard too many changes, so.
Yeah.
Just making a motion to have a vote on the appeal.
So all we're,
Vote how?
yes or no on Mr. Miser's appeal? Yes. Yes, granting his appeal, or yes for, and that's just it. Our decision is we are standing behind the building commissioner's
If you deny
decision.
the appeal, then you're standing behind the building commissioner. If you say yay to the appeal, then you're standing behind the.
Okay, so is the motion to approve or is the motion to deny?
Vote on the appeal.
Barry, what was your, how did you just say?
I said that the motion should be made to either approve or deny the appeal.
I think the way Kevin said it was best.
He's bringing forth an appeal, yes?
Yes.
If you say yes, you're granting the appeal.
Yeah.
If you say no, you're denying it, and by extension, supporting the building
Right,
commissioner's
okay.
ruling.
Yeah, I think.
That makes sense?
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, so you're saying deny.
Motion for an vote on the
Your
appeal.
motion to deny.
Yes will be meaning that you're affirming and saying yes to the appeal, no is,
We're
Yes.
voting on the,
yep, there you go.
each individual person can
Yeah.
approve or deny. Okay.
Do we have a motion to vote on the appeal? Is there-
Let's get what he has written there.
Okay,
So we are in agreement with what's written
Right.
there.
Very good.
okay. Right, so your motion is to vote on the appeal.
Correct.
And Barry is the seconded it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the vote to yes is to agree with the appeal. Vote of no is to reject the appeal. And how do you vote on that motion?
No.
And the chair votes no. Now,
Now I'd like to make a second motion.
Let me,
Now you got it.
Here, all right.
He's gonna
We all know where it's ended up, you just gotta get the right word.
I tried to withdraw it.
I know, but we're trying to put it on record.
I know.
Vote to give them
Per the building commissioners.
to apply. Other sides, really, basically.
How about something along the lines of, we're gonna make a motion to extend in this case, to extend the October 1st date where penalties apply until the date.
Well, we can't.
We can't do that, though, can we?
Yeah.
You're the one, I mean, all we're gonna do is with the conditions that you.
If the building
Can or
commissioner
cannot
agrees
extend.
to.
I mean, if you want.
Okay, let me simplify it. I'll give you
Whatever you guys say. It can be an executive decision.
It can be executive decision. It's,
We'll extend, we'll put off any penalties until the November
Regular meeting.
2023 BZA meeting.
No, I'm back. I mean, that's November.
That's the third Thursday in
So could you
November.
just put a date on it? Could you say December 1st?
thank
Just,
you.
I'll tell you what, give me a
just
second.
then, that gives me, if they say no, I still have.
Well, if you go to December 1st, then it's not going to be heard until the third Thursday in December.
No, he
I
was
mean,
going to say the date.
The fees to start.
We're probably gonna have to choose a different day there, because we're gonna have to move the BZA meeting because it's.
That's Thanksgiving.
Exactly, that's what I just said. Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yes.
I think schedule,
It's Thanksgiving.
So,
I have to look schedule.
I didn't think Thanksgiving
No,
was
no,
on the third Thursday.
16.
December 1st, I'll send you an email.
All right, cool. That's great.
It's always the third Thursday. I don't think Thanksgiving is.
I think we bumped it forward. I think it's bumped forward.
When did the late was that go?
I have here November 16th as the BZA
Yeah, I
meeting.
think it's like-
That's not Thanksgiving.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the 16th and that is not Thanksgiving.
No.
The next meeting is the
Okay.
16th.
I have till December 1st to remove it. I will submit. Do I do that now? No.
No, you have to go through
Go
Mr.
through.
Steve.
Okay,
He
so I will.
will give you the proper procedure.
I'll give you a link. I'll send you an email with the working process that you'll need to follow.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that it's way longer. than I was
Because it was getting.
Okay, right, so we have a motion.
We don't have to do
Oh.
a motion for the second part.
We're gonna leave that up.
Okay.
So the executive session.
Okay, all right,
They
so
worked it out.
let me get this in the minutes then. Mr.
Oh, hold on a second.
was given
Thank you so much.
till
Yeah, yeah, love it. That's better. Can you hear us, Bert?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can.
can
Okay,
we wait a minute, please?
sure.
Yeah, because if people were here, they've already.
How long are you waiting?
How long was I waiting?
Yes.
I don't know. I've been on a few minutes here, but you've been waiting on me longer, I'm sure, than I've been waiting on you. So
Problem is, we've already voted to table it till the next meeting. And some of the people that were here have already gone home, so we cannot continue it today.
okay, all right. Well, I apologize. I had some stuff that came up and wasn't able to get away, and I apologize I wasn't able to make it there tonight.
And we'll just have to do it in October. Sorry. And
Okay,
we'll have- Let people know.
I'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
To talk about
New business.
the new business, yes.
Heavy new business.
So. I don't have any new business, but just to kind of tie it in, I guess what the commissioner's report for you is that
I was gonna ask last one, do we have any regulations on putting the basketball goals out on the street like that? I mean, like it was sitting there at the end of the driveway and it still is. I don't like to see that in the street. Oh, I mean,
Would that be a town ordinance, some?
I was just wondering about that.
I don't know the answer. to
I could
that
see
right
moving it
now.
out and playing basketball if there's nobody around, but to leave it there all the time is kind of,
Yeah, what am I asking though, would it be even building commissioner or would it be actually be town manager or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's your question.
should ask Kevin about that.
There's your man right there.
Be down on Washington Street.
Yeah, this is the one on Slate Street.
I know. Slate one.
Slate Washington. That's what we're on the street, but it's all very getting cold, but it's not in the way of any
Okay.
cars.
Don't really bother you. Okay.
It's not been any.
We're gonna be honest.
Well, and I could, like I said, I could see him moving it out, but I hate to see it just sitting there in the street all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time.
There's these cars I'd rather see get towed first. I know you know.
And it might be an issue too, for the trash cans when they leave them out on the street for real.
So is there an ordinance regarding that or in general? I have no clue. And I don't know if it'd be, most likely
Yeah.
it's not a zoning ordinance. It's some other kind of
Right.
town
Yeah.
ordinance.
Yeah. Anything else report to us?
So just for me, it's kind of update you. I am working on a new fee schedule for plan commission meetings, hearings, BZA hearings, building permits. And what I have found is I'll be presenting this to the plan commission also, so you get to hear it first. But I found that when it comes especially to, specifically to any kind of variance request is replats, those types of things for these two committees, plan commission and BZA, that we've been undercharging significantly based on actual time spent on these. So it's like $100 to apply for this. The actual cost is closer to 170 for each case. So I'm going to be taking to the plan commission a list of recommended increases for those. And when it comes to building permits, we have very little time at all involved in building permits. Those are all managed by the county. So our fees, the county's increasing most of their fees on building permits. So the money we get from building permits is going to drop off because they're going to take theirs off the top per se. So in a lot of cases, there won't be anything coming to Culver with a new fee schedule that's going to, it hasn't been, it's not official yet, but it will be, and it'll take place the first of the year. So I want to have our fee schedule done at the same time to align with the county's increases. More detail on that to come out through that plan commission, but also it's going to increase the different. It's also going to align, I'd like to align more with the county as far as how we title the different cases for building permits. Excuse me, the Culver's very generalized, but the county's got it broke down into different groups that's more specific. That seems to make more sense to me when you look at a permit to know more detail about it and what it is specifically.
We're kind of not as transparent what we get as far as what they get. Is that correct, what you're trying to say?
What I'm saying is that sometimes somebody put together a list of fees for our building permits and other costs for the plan commission BZA. And I don't see that that was based on anything. See, but I think it was just sounded reasonable fees at the time. So I'm basing everything on actual cost to town. So if we have a case, these hearings tonight, these people paid $100. The peaceful taxpayers are paying the burden of the other $70 for each of these cases right now.
That our fees, figure it in. I can make sure it's all there for
Yeah, that's factored in. But that includes, it's a color copy, 7 cents a copy is cost, plus paper. Plus the price of a stamp that I have to send out for you from envelopes. Plus $40 for mailing fees or for publishing fees for the legal notices. Plus, believe it or not, each one of these cases takes me on average about 3.5 hours to research and to drive out to the property. Then I have mileage to turn in.
Oh, and we have the same thing. I mean, I printed out everything you sent so I could review it and drove and visited. And I guess my tax dollars go for that, huh?
So in short, is take the burden off the taxpayers and put the burden back on the people who are applying.
We need to work on that wording for 2 front yards.
Yeah.
That's caused more confusion in the last 6 months.
But the definitions are crystal clear. All right, frontage, the property line abutting a street or road
Exactly.
right of way. It's
It
clear.
doesn't say front yard though. I mean, it doesn't have
Frontage.
frontage is what it means. And
Yeah.
everybody
And
says.
then we probably should start using
we
that
use
term.
The word front,
Frontage.
this front yard, I don't know where it came from.
However,
Well,
if we look at
Does it?
this table here,
Yeah, and it says.
and we
front
say front yard here, footnote number 1,
Yeah.
measured from the road or street right of way.
yard.
So we have 2 different definitions in the book of that I think are clear. I get it.
Yeah. But I just know the front yard.
I think the more clarification would be that
Right.
once you choose the front yard and then you actually have the front of the house, which is your street.
Well, I mean, in
And then behind that is your rear yard, and then to one side is gonna be a side yard, so you don't have 2 rear yards, 2 front yards. Yeah, Even as I'm hearing myself say it, it could be confusing.
Did Mr. Meiser say they're full-time residents here now?
That's what he said, yeah. So that's all I have.
If, and just a quick back to their thing here.
Yes.
If they went from a fence from the house to the edge of the garage, would that be far enough back for them to be able to put the,
On that side, I think it's only like 15 feet or 12
I
feet.
have no idea how far back it is.
It's not very far, the house itself. is not-
No, it's not very far.
Would
So you
it,
say
would
from
it
the
be
garage
enough?
to the house to cut this off and just shorten that up?
Yeah, I
Without going back out there and looking, I can't tell you.
have no idea. And would that, we consider that side yard or then, or would that be
It'd
frontage
still be on the street.
if it was that far back? I don't know. Yeah.
That would be the only place that I would consider.
Between the two structures,
Yeah,
I think that'd be reasonable.
that's reasonable for.
I have no idea. And of course, if it's
Based on this picture, I'm
Rhode
looking at
Island
it this
Ridgeback,
time.
then it's
Yeah.
probably a pretty big dog
Yeah,
and needs some room too.
but
I
you
mean,
know,
And I'm sure they don't want to give up.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to bring it up, but you know.
I didn't
we've
either,
got
but
ordinances that you can't have a dog out without a leash. And if your dog can jump the fence, then you need to do something to keep that dog on a leash. I mean, Mickey's dog would jump out all the time, right? And he has to be brought home, but he has paid a couple fines for it and stuff, but he keeps his on a leash when he's in the front yard. And the fence stand in the back. So he's paid fines for that dog getting out. Because he didn't have no leash. And he can't put a fence out.
I can give until December 1st is generous in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And I think that's reasonable. It can be out of
And-
town,
But
but-
reasonable.
How long has that fence been there like that?
He put that up sometime this year,
The covering or the fence?
the covering. The fence was existing. It was it's a chain link fence.
That's what I thought.
I don't
Chain
like
link
those
fence.
coverings. I think they're ugly.
But them covers,
Yeah.
I mean, even
I
though.
don't like them at all.
Our ours is probably 415, they got that around there, and I can't stand that right there. Lakeshore.
Oh, yeah, I discussed that with them and for both safety, security and keep crap from blowing off of that lot.
I agree.
It's,
But that'd be
it's,
People off that
It's not
lot.
a permanent fence.
Right.
and it is, it's actually rented. fence.
Yeah.
You can rent those.
Okay, anything else?
I'll make a motion. to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved to second, we adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
You first.
Sure.
You just drive a new car in?
How come your motion was so easy to say?
What you did last, I knew how to do it. You could have make a motion to adjourn when you had.
I should have.
This is an interesting evening. Goodness
You know,
gracious.
and I understand that.
Oh, it doesn't have all
The
that
appeal
stuff on it?
process, I mean, because by law, they're entitled to appeal. But using appeal is when you're not breaking a violation. You know, but this appeal is for his ruling to,
It's gotta be tempting.
I'm not sure what he was appealing.
But it wasn't a variance, I guess is my.
Yeah.
And basically, he didn't know what to do and he wanted to appeal it. And that's what he said.
Right.
He realized what he was doing. He was trying to
Right.
ask for
But
variance.
at the same time, you want the variance for something that
start-
already existed.
Ours part so far, still getting up.
Well, that's happened before though.
Right.
You know that.
Right.
We've run into that somebody's gone ahead and done it
Yeah.
and say, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's no exception. I mean,
Yeah. I'm just saying, sometimes it creates too many wrongs to make it right, you know?
I'm getting active. so-
It's just a conspiracy. Get your words for a minute.
Well,
It's almost an exercise in utility.
going, I know.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
17.
You got football?
Yeah.
The confusion was coming because you were trying to figure out how to make the motion, not for what it was for.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
It's hard sometimes.
It's interesting. I'm spending a lot of time.
Been a rough year.
It has been.
What's going
You guys
on.
come close so many times and
I've been a
Oh, yeah.
backseat driver. all-
Yeah,
I guess Marion's the only one you really weren't in, right?
No, last week was the one. We got beat bad. We
Oh,
lost
is it?
the game by 7, but
I'm not saying we're
Valley.
doing a horrible job.
Tippy Valley's pretty good this year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
Different life
that's
experience.
tough things though.
Different
I
perspective.
mean, playing tough things.
And it doesn't get any easier.
No,
I don't like to
I
bring.
mean, our last game of the season gets very Catholic and they're number 2 right now in the state, so.
what's that, what's that other one? Jesuit,
Appreciate their service.
North Judson.
like George Judson, they're always tough though,
Yeah.
and they're brutal.
Oh, we're Buff Jesuit.
Huh?
We got them off the schedule this year.
Yeah. And you play that over around Valpo or
I
someplace?
talked to all of them.
That was that one?
America has candy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're doing the Kankakee Valley tomorrow, so. we'll see.
Well, I know, Judge is known
Chance,
for
like it or?
hard hit.
Yeah,
Whatever.
they're-
Hard
I
hit.
mean, not too many things to do in Judson besides play football.
Well, they were down for a while, but they're back up now.
Yeah. That's it. I
I
mean,
understand.
we've got a
Oh, yeah,
good looking team.
I'm still
I mean,
struggling.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
You want a copy of the record?
it's on the right ground.
Yes, I think I have one, but yeah. I think I got everything. So there was only one finding of fact with all that.
After all that, yeah. Interesting evening.
It was, and this appeal thing is probably new to all of us. So I was reading up on it and if I make this type of decision, the appeal always is gonna come to the BZA. And then you guys get to choose.
I'm sorry,
Then you guys get to
Yeah.
choose.
but that's, hey, and as far as I'm concerned, we either stand behind you or
I appreciate it.
that's what it says and that's what unless I think you're really trying to screw somebody over, but I don't think that was the case. No,
It's just following the book.
exactly. I thought what you had laid out was perfect for them. It explained exactly what the rules were. And we've dealt with that for years and years and years. But privacy fences around the whole yard. And that doesn't make for a nice looking.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's not just about safety, it's.
Yeah.
It's the community.
aesthetics there, definitely. Yep. Well, and nothing I hate worse than these, I would say these mold